Hello, YouTubers. I was wanting to give a little bit of information on what's going on in my world, I guess you could say. Currently, I'm renting. Like a lot of us, I haven't really been able to get property over time. I don't, own my place that I'm at now. I'm a renter, but I'm fixing to change that. I've actually found some property, good price. The owners are working with me, so I can actually afford to get it. It's 5 acres of land. Yeah, that's not a lot of land, you know, but it's surrounded by a lot of land that ain't developed. It's mainly, wooded area. There's some cleared area, but mostly it's just all wooded. A lot of it is just, back corners of farms and stuff that are just woods, and there might be a fence there and some cows walk around or something like that, but that's about it. There's several acres in that area that are just nothing but woods, and it's nice area. I've looked at it. It's 5 acres set up. Well, where is it? Got it upside down. I'll get it right eventually. All right, that's how the land's laid out. How it's laid out is, out of 5 acres, 1 acre is clear, and the rest of the 4 acres is nothing but woods. Right on the border between the cleared and the wooded is probably, I couldn't imagine, hundreds of darn blackberry, raspberry, and other delicious berries that grow wild and stuff. There's even some strawberries that are actually growing there, and pretty efficiently. They're not just like barely growing. I'm talking there's big, huge patches of it just naturally, more or less growing there, doing great. There's spring on it, so the water's self-sustaining. The there ain't no septic, but I ain't sure how I'm gonna go about that. If I can afford it, I'm gonna have a septic put in and all that. But the only thing that's gonna be running into the septic is the toilet itself. That's it. I ain't gonna run none of the faucets and all that into it, because seriously, your drains, other than your toilet, is really the only drain that nasty shit comes out of. That could go into the septic. Sink, shower, stuff like that. I ain't gonna run it into it. Actually, what I was planning on doing, considering I don't use any hard chemicals or anything, and the only soap I use is actually natural soap, and it ain't gonna hurt fish or anything like that. It's actually very nicely, it's biodegradable type cleaning products and stuff like that. I don't use bleach, only for maybe small quantities if I have to sanitize water, but that's like a desperate situation. I can't boil it or something like that. Personally, I'll boil water before I'll bleach or use tablets. That's just me, however you want to do it. Because I can boil water in under 15 minutes, and in 15 minutes it takes that or longer to do most of the chemical aspects. But what I was thinking, because what comes out of the sinks and all that is gray water. It's used. It's not drinkable. You could drink it, I guess, if you're desperate. But what I was planning on doing is, the way the spring's set up, I was going to have the spring come out and have a spring house. Well, the spring house will supply my house. All right, and then what runs over, of course, that's constantly running it. I can't contain all of it. There ain't no way. So what runs over, ain't being used, can go down and go into the pond. Currently, it does not have a pond, but I've got a friend that's got the equipment and everything. We're going to dig it out, put a pond in. Not a huge pond, big enough that I can have, some fish in there and everything, and they'll be doing fine, not be too crowded or anything like that. but still small enough that, you know, it ain't going to just be like my whole damn property is nothing but a giant pond. I'm going to try to dig it as, you know, deep as possible for the fish aspect, plus the fact that I can swim in it. And if some of y'all don't think that's sanitary and all that, you know, I just turned 25. I ain't dead yet. I've been doing it for years. You know, it ain't no more unnatural than anything. It's shit. It's natural water. It's spring water. It's clean water. You know, and whatever the fish do in it gets floated to the bottom, or it floats out the other end of the pond. But I was going to have the gray water system probably run into it. Not really for any aspect of anything other than that, but I actually might, instead of running it into the pond, I might end up running it into a container that I'll bury, use a pump to pump the water back out, and use it for like watering my garden or whatnot. Water safe is just, you know, probably has a funky taste after washing dirt off yourself, so it ain't gonna hurt the plants at all. Thing is, I'm probably not going to hook into the grid. I'm going to probably stay away from the grid. You know, I've got water on it. You know, yes, solar panels might not survive everything that could come, but neither will the grid. And I'm perfectly fine with not running the grid. You know, pretty much other than this computer and a radio and lights is the only thing I ever use in this house anyways. You know, propane stove, and, you know, efficient propane water heater, and, you know, like them on-demand ones that hang on your wall setup. I've seen them in magazines for like $200. Might be able to find one cheaper, like on eBay or something. But, you know, they'd only light and heat the water when you actually want the hot water. Any other time, it's off, so you're not using propane. And you may be saying, oh, well, if you run propane, then you ain't gonna. Then if the system collapses, you ain't gonna be able to run propane. True, I ain't gonna have a propane truck coming to me then. But I have other means. The old refrigerators, because if anybody has ever experienced a spring, that water is ice cold when it comes out. It's cold. The old way of doing a fridge-like situation was the spring house they used. They'd have a door which gave you access to cleaning too, but you could open the door. You had these baskets that you set down in there with your closed items, you know, stuff that ain't gonna get soaked into, you know. So if you were going to do anything like, you know, butter or something like that, well, you wouldn't want to put it in there in a bag or something. You'd want to put it in a jar or something, seal it, and set it in the water. And you set it all down in the cold water, and it keeps everything frozen. I mean, chilled. Now, you ain't going to have frozen meat, but, you know, at least you will have some cold items, cold drinks, stuff like that. You know, it ain't the best way to do it, but it is a way of doing it. Plus, I'll have a wood stove in it. You know, there's plenty of woods on the property. I'm planning on actually planting a lot more trees. Pretty much out of the entire acre, maybe a quarter of it will actually be clear. Maybe a little more. I'm going to plant a lot of fruit trees, apples. I'm also going to plant a lot of other berries and just different things. I'm going to have a vast network of plants that are going to produce for me, plus, you know, help shade the property. You know, I'm going to plant things in certain ways. So, you know, like bar bushes and stuff like that gives you actually a little bit of protection. If you plant them in certain ways, well, then you limit the way that somebody could sneak in on you. Because the only way to get through is either crawl through the bar bush or go around on the trail that you've already got. That gives you a little less problems about somebody sneaking up on you. There's only one way in, one way out. You know, you can kind of keep an eye on it. and a little bit of common sense with bells and different things, trip wires and stuff, you can set up a system that will alert you if somebody comes in. You know, it's not rocket science, it's just basic sense, you know. But, you know, I was going to put a garden, I'm going to set her up. I'm going to make it, I'm going to think both ways. I'm going to think where I can also sustain myself. If nothing happens, fine. I ain't got $100-some light bill every month. And I don't have to worry about water. And, you know, I've got food growing around my house between trees that produce fruits and berries and garden and other wild edibles that actually grow in the woods naturally, you know. And if the woods I'm in ain't got certain things that I like, I'll go out in the woods, find it, dig it up, and bring it in. You know, it ain't a big deal. You know, I'm going to set it up as a sustainable area. It's tucked back off the road. You know, I'm even debating if I'm even going to fool with graveling the road that goes in. Right now, it's more or less just a field trail, more or less, going to the property. And if I don't gravel it, most people ain't going to think it's actual property or anybody lives up there. So that gives me an extra little bit of suspicion hiding, you know, where people ain't going to just be driving along. I was like, oh, I wonder which way this road goes. And just pull out and go into my driveway. You know, so little things, you know, things that, you know, you don't really think of, but, you know, they're good ideas. If you go down in my favorites, there's actually a video of a machine that when I was 9, I actually drew not decals, but basically the basic principles of the subject of the machine. It's a 3,000 watt generator setup that runs off itself and everything. Of course, my stepdad gave me all sorts of support. You know, he told me it was perpetual motion and it's impossible. It can never work. Well, I've done some small tests and different things over time, and I got close to sustaining its actual running, but it was always difficult for me to actually step at the next level because, you know, at the time I didn't really know a lot about electronics to a certain extent. I just knew how things basically work and figured that, hey, if this motor uses less power than the generator, then I should be able to run the motor and have power coming off of it. You know, plus I was working with a smaller system. I was only running a 12-volt system versus this one's running a 110 system. So just by that aspect, you know, that probably hurt me more than anything. But I have had them work. Seeing this actually brought back, you know, the thought of that whole system. And by what he's doing on his video is basically showing that it will run that bench grinder and it'll also run that drill press and all that. And really, some of his other videos show that shoot, it'll run a bunch of light bulbs and everything, even if you're not using it for nothing but lights. You know, it seems like it'll be a very great idea and system. If they end up selling one, actually selling them, and the price ain't too outrageous, I'll probably buy one. If not, you know, I know enough about the systems and how they work. There's a good possibility I'll just build one myself if I can get the parts together. Of course, not trying to spend as much as possible, you know, trying to do it on the cheap. But I just figured I'd give you a little bit of information about what I'm fixing to jump into and experience. So, thank you. God bless. Please subscribe, and see you later.